We'll get to your random YouTube video in a second, but first this. Hey you, do you like giraffes? Of course you do! What kind of jerk hates giraffes? Do you also like classic whodunit murder mysteries set in the 1920s? No brainer! How about dry English comedy and a healthy dose of absurdism? Yes? Then have I got a game for you? No? What's wrong with you? Lord Winklebottom Investigates is the inaugural title from indie developer Cave Monsters. Play as a suave and sophisticated talking giraffe in a top hat and monocle. Banter with a snarky hippopotamus, solve a murder, talk to the dead, hang out with an octopus, and enjoy a classic homage to 90s adventure games with great writing, a brilliant voice cast, and a twist ending you won't forget. Lord Winklebottom Investigates, available on Switch, Steam, and Xbox. Play it! Play it now! This YouTube channel is not associated with or endorsed by Cave Monsters, Lord Winklebottom Investigates, or anybody. Side effects of Lord Winklebottom Investigates may include amusement, spooky llamas, thinking about how to make a diving helmet, dead ducks, and a sense of humanity's impending doom. Do not take Lord Winklebottom Investigates internally. Hey, welcome back to whatever this channel is. I still don't know. Almost 100 people are somehow interested in some idiot wearing a rubber mask. You've all got great taste, I say. And also, hello to people in my son's class. Please don't beat him up. I am the Gentleman Giraffe, and today I thought instead of doing a comedy skit or talking about grain elevators for 17 minutes in an intentionally long and pointless video, I'd talk to you about one of the coolest franchises that you've never heard of. So just to contextualize this really quickly, it's the mid-90s, Jurassic Park is one of the most successful movies of all time, and dinosaurs are cool again. I mean, they were never not cool, but you get my point. The current trend of cashing in on what's popular is nothing new. You couldn't go a day without running into something that had dinos plastered all over it. It was a great time for Drumheller. Now, in a bit of serendipitous timing, the Dinotopia book series started just before that in '92.
Dinotopia, an illustrated book for all ages. Dinotopia, let the adventure begin.
It was one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons of the 90s. We're talking millions of fans worldwide, a Hugo Award, it's in every bookstore nearby all the spin-off Star Wars novels. I remember the Tyrrell Museum even had a display up in the old front room gallery. It was huge.
Enter the land of Dinotopia. With over 1 million copies in print, this amazing adventure is now available in this beautiful paperback edition. The national bestseller Dinotopia, now in paperback at bookstores everywhere.
So, first question, what is it? Well, Dinotopia is incredibly special and nobody has ever done anything like it before or after. While everybody else was casting dinosaurs as bloodthirsty monsters rampaging all over the place, a guy named James Gurney indulged every child's fantasy and went, hey, what if we were friends with them instead? And that's what Dinotopia is. The premise of the story is that there's an uncharted island in the Indian Ocean in the mid-1860s where dinosaurs survived the mass extinction, and they're intelligent and wear funny hats. Anyway, over many eons, shipwrecked humans arrived on the island, and together, man and dinosaur have formed a codependent and peaceful society with grand cities and wondrous technology. As the younger race, the twist is that it's the humans who are unpredictable and prone to causing trouble. So second question, why haven't you heard of this? Well, with the close of the 90s and the turning of the new millennium, the painful fact is that we can now say pop culture was a double-edged sword for creativity and imagination. Mass media consumption became the name of the game, and if you weren't willing to compromise your artistic vision by selling out with a glut of video games, spin-off books, web series, comics, TV shows, movies, and toys, chances are you'd eventually fade into obscurity. And that's just what happened. Dinotopia's creator is notoriously protective of his property and his creative vision as an artist. He never sold out despite many, many opportunities to do so. And while that meant he kept the respect of his fans and his IP, it also means his franchise suffered in the pop culture sphere. There's another more controversial reason too, but we'll come back to that later. So what I'm going to do here is go through the books and give you a quick synopsis of each one. So, starting with Dinotopia, a land apart from time. Ooh. This is the world building and all the lore for the island. This is the setup for everything that follows, and without it, you're not exactly lost if you jump in somewhere else, but there's a few things that'll be head scratchers in every other book unless you do this one first. Everything else is pretty accessible though, there's no convoluted deep lore or history you need to know. So the first one is the introduction to everything else, including our main characters. There's Arthur Dennison, professor of sciences, naturalist, and explorer. He has with him his young son, Will. They've left Boston on a voyage of discovery because Arthur's wife has died. They wind up shipwrecked on Dinotopia. Their ship is lost on the Razor Reef. A Protoceratops translator, Bix, helps them out on their journey after Arthur assaults her with a rock. Bix is the best character. Fact. They travel the island, visit Waterfall City, and Arthur essentially has a midlife crisis, since he has to relearn everything he knows, including the local language, and he feels lost and directionless in his life. Once he has his bearings and has a good idea of what the island is and how it works, he tries to find a way off in his spare time. Meanwhile, Will is determined to become a Skybax rider. A Skybax is a giant pterosaur, specifically a Quetzalcoatlus, that is commonly equipped with a saddle. Will has to endure a hard journey of education and training. Arthur's scientific curiosity turns to old myths and legends about the world beneath, which is an almost religious place for the dinosaurs because of the supposed underground caverns where they rode out the mass extinction. Arthur believes that if it is real, that may be his way off the island. He looks for the world beneath, finds something, and comes back. Meanwhile, Will completes his training, earns the respect of Sirius, his training partner, and Arthur and Will are reunited, having gone through significant changes. In particular, Arthur no longer wants to leave the island, realizing that he has a lifetime of exploration waiting for him. And that sets up the next book, which is Dinotopia, the World Beneath. Arthur Dennison and Will, now an experienced Skybax pilot, go their separate ways and both embark on a high adventure across the island. Arthur assembles a proper expedition to explore the world beneath that includes himself, Bix, the wannabe pirate and perpetual malcontent troublemaker Lee Crabbe, and the musician Oriana Neskova. We learn that in the last book, Arthur found half of a key that went to a huge underground door. He needs the other half of the key to open that door, and Oriana comes with it. Arthur's masculine Victorian sensibilities and scientific logic are challenged by Oriana's headstrong nature and spiritual view of life. Will, meanwhile, is part of a convoy into the Rainy Basin, which is where all the wild and meat-chomping carnivores with no love for Dinotopian society live. They're trying to get medicine for a sick Triceratops hatchling who is in rough shape. And there's a lot of twists, fun, and suspense that I won't spoil here. And if you've never read this, then you're doing yourself a serious disservice. This book is an artistic masterpiece. Full stop. Gurney set up his world in the first one, and in this one he gets to play in it, and the result is just, it's amazing. It's pure magic. That's all you need to know. Dinotopia, First Flight. A spin-off prequel that was mandated by Gurney's publisher after World Beneath's runaway success. Basically, this was supposed to be a secondary continuity set 1,000 years or so in Dinotopia's past, aimed at being shorter, more kid-friendly, and easier to get out the door because money. It's generally regarded as lacking the depth of the other books, and Gurney wisely chose to treat it as separate from his main storyline. There's a standard hero's journey that follows Gideon Altair, who will become the first Skybax rider. He has to defeat the Marvel villain Rolf Stricker, save the girl, and stop an invading army that wants to take over Dinotopia with a bunch of war machines. It really has no bearing on anything else because the series that this was meant to belong to never actually took off. Dinotopia, Journey to Chandra. So, after nearly a decade of waiting, news broke that James Gurney was doing the third Dinotopia. The hype was absolutely real, and after a failed live-action adaptation and the franchise being slammed into the gulag by Jim's original publisher, myself and other fans eagerly awaited the triumphant return of the Dinotopia we knew and loved. Journey to Chandra is essentially the farewell to the fans. I said that years ago, and I stand by it now. Arthur receives an invitation from the Emperor of Chandra to visit the reclusive city in the east of the island. His invitation is stolen by Lee Crabbe, who slips from the wardens who were guarding him at the end of the last book and flees across the island. So along with trusty Bix, Arthur sets off on a cross-country tour, encounters Dinotopians and Dinotopian philosophy, visits places we've never seen before, meets some feathery new dinosaurs, and arrives at Chandra, a place he knows practically nothing about. Arthur explores this new city, discovering its unique customs and culture, and meets with the Emperor. Crabbe gets his, and Arthur stays in the city. And that's the end of the series. Dinotopia Lost! So an older Will Dennison, now a skilled Skybax rider, has to deal with a band of bloodthirsty pirates who have crashed on the island in the middle of one of Dinotopia's deadly 7-year storms. The pirates, having landed near the rainy basin, believe that the dinosaurs are just mindless beasts, and chaos ensues as they capture a helpless family of Struthiomimuses, abduct a young Tyrannosaurus, and generally make asses of themselves while they undermine the peace of the island. Will is joined by Kaz, a depressed and sarcastic Protoceratops who rivals Bix as best character in all of Dinotopia, especially with his constant bitching about being on an adventure. And it has a frigging ninja Deinonychus in it. The Hand of Dinotopia. I don't use the word slog often, but this book is a slog. You'll notice it's really thick. A third of this heft is notoriously spent wandering around in the desert looking for Sylvia Romano, Will's fiancée, before anything at all of interest happens. Anyway, Will once again teams up with Kaz in order to search for the Hand of Dinotopia, an artifact that allegedly points a safe path away from the island. I still recall the ending of this book vividly punching me in the feels harder than anything else at the time, since without giving it away, essentially the question put to the reader becomes, why the hell would you want to leave a place like Dinotopia anyway? Okay, so next, we've got the Digest novels. This was a spin-off young adult series published by Random House, and I think it was Turner before that, I'm not sure. They generally have a more kid and teen-friendly style, but the cool thing is that every story explores a piece of the island or its customs that you haven't seen before. Gurney himself preferred to think of a sliding scale of canon, with his books being the gospel, Foster's as being a little more flexible, and the Digest being even more flexible. For instance, even though it's established in A Land Apart from Time that not all dinosaurs can use human speech, which is why they need translators like Bix, and Dinotopia has its own blended language, newcomers can immediately talk to the natives and suddenly all the dinosaurs can communicate directly. So there's 16 of these to get through. This is going to be shorter. First, Windchaser. Long story short, the son of the ship's surgeon is thrown overboard during a ship mutiny moments before the doomed vessel hits Dinotopia's deadly reef. Raymond, the boy, bonds with a wounded and anarchic Skybax named Windchaser. They have to deal with their emotional trauma together and find a way to heal. River Quest! The Palongo River that supplies life to Waterfall City has mysteriously dried up, and it's up to Habitat partners Magnolia and Paddlefoot to figure out what's going on despite being completely unprepared for that responsibility. Hatchling! A young girl named Janet who works at the dinosaur hatchery thinks she straight up killed a baby dinosaur, so her natural reaction is to run away forever under the cover of darkness with her friend. On the way, they meet a sick dinosaur who entrusts Janet with an egg that represents the last of her entire bloodline, and then Janet has to take it back to the hatchery and own up for her crimes. Lost City. Lost City. So basically, there's a group of Arthurian Troodon knights hiding out on the island because they carry around swords and practice the way of the warrior in a pacifist society where the biggest danger is being late for your favorite parade. Sabertooth Mountain. This one is basically what would happen if Rudyard Kipling wrote a Dinotopia. A young boy named Kai has to sort out a band of reclusive saber-toothed tigers led by a race saber-toothed tiger when an avalanche blocks their only access to food. Thunder Falls. When Lee Crab pulls a Lee Crab, a kid and his dinosaur buddy are sent out by a tired, elderly Triceratops to stop Lee Crab. Along the way, they learn the value of friendship and cooperation and also help some poor orphan girl who just got there. Firestorm. I don't remember much of this one, honestly, but the plot is that two kids and a dinosaur or two have to figure out what's killing the plant that helps Dinotopians live really long, and the Firestorm title is because everybody panics and starts burning said plant in an effort to stop the disease killing the plant. The Maze! This is Indiana Jones-osaurus and the Temple of Doom. A kid's dad is dying, and only a guy who lives in a booby-trapped temple can save him. Rescue Party! Okay, so this one is about a crashed hot air balloon that lands in the dangerous rainy basin, and two kids and their dinosaur pal think the adults aren't going fast enough, so they mount their own rescue mission. It goes about as well as you can expect. Skydance! Two complete misfits who are mostly bad at everything they do join a troupe of entertainers and have to save the day when an airship and its crew are in danger. Also, there's romance between Parasaurolophuses. Chomper! Okay, stop me if you've heard this one before. Young man brings animal home. Young man learns responsibility. Young man has to return pet to the wild. Young man matures slightly. That, but with child abduction. Return to Lost City. This is a straight-up play on Don Quixote with an almost senile Troodon knight bumbling his way through an innocent quest to help people as his human friend desperately tries to mitigate the mass damage he's causing. Survive! A kid falls down a hill and gets amnesia because he was poisoned by a plant. Dolphin Watch. This is another one I don't remember a lot of. I do remember that this one addresses the whole, what if somebody who washes up on Dinotopia hates Dinotopia problem? That's interesting. And the look at all the aquatic stuff was neat. I just don't remember enough to tell you much about it. The Explorers! A little bastard named Nicholas torments a bunch of Troodon knights in training for nearly 145 pages and then figures out he's a dickhead. Oasis! This one is bittersweet. It's a fun story with a lot of really clever and creative characters. There's these lovable singing Compsognathus, but it came out when we knew the series was about to end, and it makes me kind of weepy when I think about it. Okay, and then we've got some other random stuff. First up, the elusive Dinotopia adventure game from 1995. Chances are you can illegally download this today and play it, but I've got the original multimedia experience with working cutscenes and live-action video on CD-ROM. Good for me.
CD-ROM game also available.
So you guide a lad named Nathan Drake around the island as he looks for his sister, Constance. So basically you solve puzzles, talk to the island's inhabitants, play cards with a cheating, snarky, purple dinosaur as she takes your stuff, and, you know, the player's guide for the 1995 Dinotopia adventure game. Notable because it has all the backstory on all the characters in this game and production stories that have now been lost to time. The Traveler's Guide to Dinotopia. This little guy was packaged with the ZBS audio adventures. This is a little tourism-style pamphlet that tells you all the Dinotopia lore to get into the series. The Dinotopia pop-up book. It's a pop-up book. These were a thing. You turn the page and a little scene unfolds in 3D. I miss these. The Dinotopia Gameland Activity Center. I don't think modern machines can even run this anymore. It was a 98, I want to say like 95, 98 thing. You're not missing anything anyway. It's just a bunch of mini games, puzzles, and slider pictures that are Dinotopia themed. The ZBS Dinotopia Audio Adventures. This is as close as we got to a proper movie. These are adapted directly from the first two books. They are true to the characters, the setting, everything that happens. They're fully voiced by professional actors. The sound design is amazing. Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's quite simple. The half of the key that you hold belongs to me.
But, Bix, can you translate?
I think not, Arthur.
I don't want to talk about this one, like at all. But if I'm doing this, I have to. After going through the carefully and meticulously built world of peace and harmony that was designed to tell stories, create a world of adventure, and inspire the reader, it's super hard to find any good in the live-action Dinotopia. It was a cash grab for Hallmark, which was under serious financial stress at the time, plain and simple. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. So this is the Dinotopia miniseries and the aborted TV show that was canceled halfway through. It was a huge, huge mistake. It basically killed the prospects of the franchise. And there's an entire story about it that I've managed to piece together over the years. But I'd like to end on a positive note. So, alright. So anyway, I'm going to review all of these soon. This is the point of this video. I just wanted to give a quick overview and hopefully pique somebody's interest if you go searching for the name. The books are genuinely great, and they deserve to be looked at again. Most of the spin-off media is also similarly great. As long as it's based on those books, it's gold. So anyway, I'll see you then. Breathe deep, seek peace.